pieces of our mind to enable you to distinguish between the neuroses and the goodness. That is the job of being a Buddhist. That's why you need concentration. That's why you need mindfulness. That's why you have to control your body and speech. That's the job of being a Buddhist. That's the essence of high school. So if you're just on the Hinayana path, you will continue to do this, you'll realise emptiness, you'll finish all the rubbish in that particular life, you're out of here, baby, you're done, you're finished, you're cooked, not coming back. But if you're on the Mahayana path, you continue. Now you go to the university, and now you continue working on your mind, there's no difference. But the reference point now has changed. In the wisdom wing, the reference point is you. It's all about controlling, it's all about discipline, it's all about preventing, and this is the essence of it, stopping you from getting cancer, stopping you from having future suffering, stopping you from having suffering. Cancer is the analogy for suffering. The purpose of the wisdom wing is to help you stop suffering. The purpose of the wisdom wing is to help you stop suffering. It's got zero to do with helping other people yet. Zero. It's about you. But we don't like, that makes us nervous. That sounds selfish. We get nervous. Well, you can't help others until you help yourself, honey. I'm sorry. Pretty clear. And if you don't recognise your own suffering and the causes of it, first noble truth, second noble truth, suffering and its causes, which is high school, you learn that in high school, then how can you help anybody? You can't help an ant. But it's all about you. Wisdom wing is you. It's controlling your body, controlling your speech, then sorting out your mind. That's the job of being a Buddhist. That's Hinayana, Mahayana, you name it, all of that. Junior school, high school, that's the essence. First level, control your body and speech. Second one, control your mind. Then finally, remove all the distinguish between the neuroses and the goodness. This is the fundamental job of a Buddhist from here to enlightenment. And if we don't know that, we completely don't understand Buddhism. Just think that being mindful is about just observing your mind and saying there's anger, there's love, there's this, and just being in the moment. It's beyond idiocy, and I'm not trying to be rude. It's a grotesque lack of understanding and profound mistake. You just turn into an idiot. It's a deep misunderstanding. Based on, excuse me, don't believe me. I'm telling, all I can do, like I told people yesterday at the prison meeting, all I can do is tell you what I have learned from the Dalai Lama and all that mob. That's what we say in Australia, that group, those people. You know, that's all I can do. I can't do more. So it's up to you to check it out and see if you think it's valid. But if you can hear the word Sangye, it implies it. Hear the word. You can get rid of delusions. So that means it's a proactive job. Not just saying there's anger. You've got to know what to do with anger. There's love. You've got to know what to do with it. Otherwise it's just passivity beyond God and saying. You know? It's implied by the word Sangye. Think it through. The essence of junior school, control your body and speech. The essence of high school, control your mind. And then finally realise emptiness and you're out of here. Now the essence of the compassion wing is continuing to work on your mind. There's no difference. Continuing to work on your behaviour, because there's different levels of vows, and all vows are about behaviour. Here though, the emphasis is on how to help others. Now you open yourself to others. You're working on your mind in reference to others now. How to help others. The first lot, another way to say it in reference to others, is to not harm them. Here is to help them, based on wisdom. So the essence of compassion wing is to put the final piece into place. You're adding the bodhicitta to the mix of wisdom. These two together in the bodhisattva path, that brings you Buddhahood. And you add the Vajrayana to get there quickly. That's the essence of the entire Buddhist path from A to Z. The essence of all the teachings, all the metaphysics, all the philosophy, all the worldview, all the view about karma, all the Vajrayana complex, all of it is contained in that package, and all of it is to get you to become Sangye. All the teachings that be taken as sound advice, because there's no contradiction between the content of the curriculum and the result. Okay. So the thing is, over the centuries, of course, because it's been studied and practiced in many countries and many traditions over the centuries. It's a rich, rich, rich literature. Each of these components, you could study each one for 20 years. Each of them, the essence of the first and the second, the literature is vast on each one. You can get so deep into each one. And so it should be from the experience of the great yogis and scholars. But we can completely lose ourselves if we don't remember the big picture. Samgye. In other words, this is life. If you want to build a house, you have to imagine the house, then you have to write down the plan. Pretty obvious. And you have to have the details, 47 screws here and 15 pieces of wood there, this shape, that size. You've got to be incredibly accurate. They're the details, aren't they? So if you just have the big picture but no details, you'll never get a house. And if you only have details, you can get so bogged down on the number of screws in the toilet basin, you'll go mad. You forget the big picture. And our mind has either of these tendencies, we get lost. So we continually have to refer to the big picture and then go into the details, because the details get you the big picture accomplished. That we often don't think was spiritual. In fact, you know what? The mind of a yogi is a mind of detail. The greatest yogis, the mind that realizes emptiness is the mind that understands dependent arising. And the mind that understands dependent arising is the mind of details. It's hugely intricate, precise. That's the mind of a yogi, I remember there's many kids these days are being recognised like among non-Tibetans as being reincarnated Tibetan yogis and meditators. It's quite, there's a tradition in Tibet. Well, there's one little boy, an American boy, the son of a friend of mine, student of Lama Zopa. Since tiny kid, he was, there's also a few girls too, there's a few girls, So this little boy, he, when he was quite young, wild, super intelligent, and then she got psychologists, and of course they call him autistic. I mean, we're so evil in the West, I can't believe sometimes, it's so shocking, in my opinion sometimes. And he's called autistic, so she was quite worried. I said, God in heaven, please go and ask Lama Zopa, what do you think? So he started to give the little boy practices, like memorise the Heart Sutra. So he memorised the Heart Sutra, like little boy. He memorised the 3 principal aspects of the path. He memorised all these, like, she's sitting there, they're doing, because he likes those things, so she was doing mantras. There was about 4 or 5, I think, doing mantras, this long, weird, long, complicated mantra. They used to recite every day for certain things Rinpoche said. And she looks over and he's memorised it. That's the mind of a yogi. So this is the point now. So I said, for God's sake, why don't you send to one of the Tibetan doctors? These Tibetan doctors, they're all practicing of the Vajrayana. Tibetan medicine is based on the Vajrayana model, this extraordinary understanding of the subtle physiology and psychology. And because they can read you. I remember one time in America, like in the 70s, there was a book we published at Wisdom. This Tibetan doctor, no English, an old guy, one of the Dalai Lama's doctors, he was invited to do the rounds with the young doctors in the hospital. They go to all the different patients. So he was given, they wanted to see how he worked. So he was given this old guy to look at. So he sat there for 45 minutes holding this, checking this old guy's pulses. That's it, just his pulses. Not speaking one word, not asking one question. And then he proceeded to give an entire history of this guy from the time he was born. Well, the doctors were quite impressed. So this is from the understanding of the subtle physiology and the wind and the mind, like we talked last night. It's an extremely fascinating system in the Vajrayana. Now I'm lost. Why did I say all that?
Little boy.
Thank you, little boy. Thank you very much. So little boy, okay. His name is Dechen, Tibetan. So anyway, he's so then I talked to this Tibetan doctor, send a photo and a few symptoms. Well, he's wild, he's uncontrolled, he screams, he's super intelligent, he's obsessive, he only eats like a few dry chips, and he hates meat, he hates vegetables, he hates fruit, he almost eats nothing, he's up from 5 in the morning to 10 at night, a few symptoms. And he wrote back and said, yeah, that's how yogis behave. It's got quite a relief, okay? Now, we don't think of yogis like that. We think yogis are spaced out, look in the sky, being mindful. But now he's getting older, he's channeling all this energy. Now, it was a super powerful mind. Yes, berserk when he's younger. But there's another little girl, also named Dechen, same name actually, in Scotland. From the time she was tiny. Her father was a student of Lama Zopa and Lama Lunda at Courtin Monastery. So she's little, cute, she's got a peaceful nature, not wild, peaceful. And she's always very sweet and peaceful and just beautiful. And then she would look at the photo of Geshe Lama Konchog, one of my lamas, one of the lamas from Courtin Monastery, a fellow monk at Sarah Monastery in the 30s and 40s, with Lama Zopa, or 50s, 40s and 50s, it's Lama Geshe. A great yogi, up in the mountains, after he left Tibet, lived in the mountains for many years, to the point where he was no food, no sleep, no clothing. They don't need to. With their Vajrayana Vajrayana practitioners, they have complete control over their body and mind. So they can generate heat, they're in bliss. Who needs clothing? Who needs a house, you know? No problem. Who needs food? Nobody. There's a pill the Tibetan doctors make that is used by yogis. They take the essence of all the minerals, etc., and they put them in these little pills, and they're called chulen, taking the essence. So meditators live on these, so they don't need gross food. They get very skinny, but they get very nourished. And their mind can be just meditating. So he didn't even need the pill. He lived on what they call the wind chulen. He was able to take the essence from the air just by breathing. That's how subtle these yogis can be, you know. So she would see photos of him since tiny. She'd say, "Oh, that's me." She'd announce very clearly, very simply. So he'd, Thomas the father, being a Buddhist, would listen, didn't say much. So she'd always just acted extraordinary, always talk like this, you know. So eventually she met the lamas. She's never been formally recognised. She's now 13 or 14, 15 maybe by now, Scottish, with a German father and a German Buddhist father and an Estonian Sufi mother. But she shows all the aspects of another of a yogi, of a meditator. But peaceful, not like the other boy. But this little kid, now he's getting older, he channels all this energy, you know, and he's super intelligent. And that's the mind of detail. So the mind of detail, when it's mixed with virtue, that's the yogi's mind. A mind of detail can be a genius mathematician. We've got that intelligence. But if there's no virtue, you go mad. So the Buddhist one of wisdom has to go with virtue. It's got to come with virtue. Then you have yogis. It's a very interesting point. So this genius of a boy, so he's got his own little YouTube channel, and he gives, maybe not lately, but when he's 6 and 7, and he'd learn something. He'd learn about why the sky is blue, and he'd proceed to give a talk on it. Perfect words, perfect English, as he's speaking spontaneously, perfect grammar, this brilliant little mind. But extraordinary virtue. All his energy is now being channeled, you know. So I'll just tell you that story. The mind of a yogi. It's very interesting. And that's how you get it. That's how you realise emptiness. Dependent arising. We're going to get to that. Okay, the essence of junior school, control your body and speech. The essence of high school, control your mind, subdue your mind, transform your mind, distinguish between virtue and non-virtue, realise emptiness, and finally get out of here. And compassion wing, the essence of that is continue to work on your mind and making this this paradigm shift from self-cherishing to cherishing others. Bodhicitta, and then you perfect it with the 6 perfections, and then you become a Sangha. A few lifetimes, yes. But that's the process, that's the essence, that's the entire path. So Mahamudra fits in the most advanced level. It's based on the Mahayana. It's a technique that's been developed over the centuries. It's actually a high technique. It assumes already a lot of background work. Whether it's in this life or the previous life doesn't matter. In other words, the person who can accomplish Mahamudra, we can all practice it. There's no doubt about that. And it's excellent to do so. But the person who can actually realise emptiness using that technique is the person who's done all the other work before, whether it's this life or the previous life. That's the point. We can still practice it without much work, and it can be beneficial without even other work. You can get something. And why, as Lama Yeshe says, is because the mind itself is so extraordinary. When you can even get single point of concentration, even a semblance of some concentration, like I said yesterday, the qualities are so astonishing that, as Lama says, you can get almost an experience of emptiness. It's not emptiness, but the mind is so powerful when you can begin to taste it. You can begin to focus on it, experience your own mind. It's so powerful. It's not Mahamudra, but it quickly enables you to realise emptiness. There's something extremely powerful about using the mind itself as your focal point. So it's a very delicious technique that's been developed for centuries by these amazing yogis, you know, coming from the Indians. Necessarily, within the Vajrayana, it is the most advanced. It's not in itself, the sutra practice, anyone can do it. It doesn't sound and look like Vajrayana, but in the Tibetan tradition, it's always taught in the context of the Vajrayana and receiving a highest yoga tantra initiation, which implies you've got tantric vows, bodhisattva vows, lay vows, and refuge, which means the whole deal, you know. Are we communicating here? Do you have any questions for me? 10 to 10. Do we have any questions? Clarifying points, definitions, words, questions about what I've talked about so far? Yes. A bit louder, sweetheart.
Can you talk a little About the mind.
I'm giving background. I will do that. That's where I'm heading. But I'm giving the big picture. Do you understand? Do you understand what I'm doing?
Yes.
What I've just done? Giving the big picture. I'm going to talk about the mind, karma, emptiness, everything. All right, I promise. Yes.
Is it required to practice Mahamudra with a teacher?
I always say, I'm not being rude before I start being rude. Okay. This is so fascinating. Think of anything in your life since you were born that you have learned without any reference to any human being at all in any shape or form. Or any other sentient being. Think about something. What do you think?
I can't.
That's right. So why do you think realizing something that is absolutely uncharted territory, that is so astonishing, so remarkable, so sophisticated, so advanced, so radical, so outrageous, that you should ask that question? But that's exactly what we all ask because it's spiritual and we have these weird ideas of what it means.
Maybe
So,
I should refine it. I meant,
excuse me?
I meant do you need to practice it with a teacher? I guess
Excuse me, I repeat my answer. How the hell could you learn the technique if you don't have someone tell you? And how the hell could you have the technique from someone who hasn't done it? How could you do that? Schizophrenic. How could you learn the technique without someone telling you, even in a book? Can you not hear? What am I missing in your question?
I guess I'm just asking if it's something that it's enough to just hear it and then practice.
Excuse me, who was the person you hear it from called?
A teacher.
Thank you. That's my point. You're acting as if you got it out of the sky or something. Because even if you don't realise what teacher means, that means. Because who do you hear it from? A person who tells you a recipe is a cook. A person who writes a cookbook is a cook. That equals cooking teacher. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Are we sure you were communicating?
Yeah.
But it's a very common question. But maybe you've got to think through the meaning of the word teacher. And still merely reading a recipe, still merely reading a piece of music of Bach. Do you really think you can really experience Bach by doing that? Do you really think that's possible? Thank you very much. That's how we mystify religion and spirit, unfortunately. Do you hear me? Okay. Yes.
Maybe
Keep it short and don't make a statement but get a question. I don't want you processing. Do the processing internally and then come up with a question. If you haven't done it yet, wait and ask later.
Oh, that's
Good, darling. What's the question?
the question is,
Yeah.
in Hinayana you say that we work, according to the Hinayana path, we work on ourselves, and the Mahayana, the next stage is we think about not only about ourselves, but
No, you're still
about
thinking
others.
about you're still thinking about others in the first one, and the main emphasis though is to protect you from doing
That's what I
doing
meant.
bad things.
Okay, so what I thought is, how can you do the way of the Hinayana? The compassion starts
Of
like
course it would.
naturally.
Well, naturally.
So what's the?
But that's not the point. Of course it will. Of course it will. It's natural.
Yeah.
But that's not the point. That's not the issue. That's not the technique that you're doing. When if you've got a technique to jog, that's the name of the technique, to jog, to get you stamina or whatever. But you'll end up learning other things about it. You'll end up realising when you run up and down the basketball court, you'll be able to be jogging so well you can also bounce the ball. But the job of jogging is not to bounce a ball, but you can't help but learn about bouncing a ball while you're jogging. But the emphasis is on the jogging. Each technique is very specific. So the wisdom wing specific focus, the reference point for it, the goal of it, the aim of it, is the technique itself is controlling your body, controlling your speech and controlling your mind. We haven't gone into the why yet, we're going to go into that in a minute. That's the job at hand. Naturally, the second you get less neurotic, you're going to get more kind. But that's not the emphasis. So in the compassion wing, that's the emphasis. And in one day, for example, you might say a mantra. That's Vajrayana. Another moment you'll be kind to somebody. That's Mahayana. Another second you'll think, shut up, Robina, that's a ridiculous thought. That's high school. Another second you will control your speech. That's junior school. So if you locate each thing we say and do, that belongs to one of the different levels. So if you haven't done enough of the first one, you've got to mainly emphasise controlling your speech. Then when you've done enough of that, you can now control your mind. Then when you've done that, you can now genuinely help another. And you understand it's progressive, but you can practice all of them, but they each help each other. We have to identify each one precisely, and we don't tend to do that. You get my point now? Good. Fantastic. What else? Something else? Nobody? Something?
Here.
Yes.
Who was Padmasambhava's teacher?
Who was he? I have no idea. I don't know. What's the question then? You implying you didn't have one?
Samantabhadra was his teacher.
Okay, good. And then who? Then
So for that fellow, Samantabhadra could be his teacher also.
well, it's still a person, isn't it? Still somebody, isn't it?
Is there somebody, Samantabhadra?
Well, if it's not somebody, you're in serious trouble. If you're imagining somebody who doesn't exist. No, wait a minute. What do you think of Samantabhadra is?
It's the ineffable sphere.
It's who?
The ineffable.
I know. The lovely phrase. Can you make it ordinary words for me to try and understand the meaning? What is it?
The totality of all that is.
No, that's not helpful. That's lovely theory. Please put it on the earth for me. I'm really sincere now. Please explain exactly what it means.
I'm saying that there's a tradition in Buddhism
Yeah.
that you don't need a teacher.
Okay.
You can be initiated by the highest life force there is.
That's
Be
Buddha.
taught.
That's Buddha. And that's a person.
The cosmic Buddha.
No, there's no cosmic Buddha. There is a Buddha.
That's your view.
No, that's the view I've learned from the Dalai Lama. And I don't know what's your source. But it's the same one. It's the Buddha. And Buddha is. Do you remember the word Sangye? Okay, what's a Buddha for you?
The Buddha is someone who's free and awakened.
Thank you. That's called Sangye. A person whose consciousness. Pardon?
Fine, carry on.
No. Well, thank you very much. I will carry on. Thank you for your permission. Buddha, as we said, Sangye in Tibetan, is the name given to your mind when you've done the job of removing from your mind all delusions and have perfected all virtues. That's the word Sangye. That's the Tibetan word for the Buddha. And the Buddha, as you know, says every one of us possesses this potential. You agree with that?
Of course, it's
You
Buddha
agree?
nature.
Okay, good. So you accept we have that. So what part of you has that? Your nose or your mind?
It's not we don't have
I'm
it.
asking you, sweetheart, please can we have a little discussion so we can be clear we're all on the same page. It's important for communication.
I'll answer your question.
No, I'm asking you a question here. Can you give me the answer? Which part of you has the potential to become a Buddha? Is it your mind or your body? May I know what you think?
I don't separate them.
I need you to know them because your mind continues and your body doesn't. So the mind does exist without the body. So I think it's your consciousness, isn't it? Would you agree?
Of course it's
Good. So it's your good. So listen, please.
Yeah.
You don't have to like what I say, but I'm going to say it because you brought the question up. And it's my responsibility to give you an answer according to the teachings that I know. That's my job. So, Buddha, the part of you and the part of me and the part of the ant and the part of Hitler that becomes a Buddha is our consciousness. Buddha says it's beginningless and endless. It's not physical, and it possesses that potential. So when you've accomplished that job of removing all delusions from your mind, and developing your perfection, you're now a Buddha. So how will you be? Your consciousness, which is not physical, will pervade the universe. You will have omniscience. You will know the minds of all beings, all past and all future. I'm giving you the answer according to the teachings I've studied from the Dalai Lama. Well, you don't have to agree, I told you, so don't need to nod. Just listen. If you've got a big mind, you'll listen. If you don't like it, I'll be quiet. But I'd like to have it in front of people as well. This is the definition of a Buddha according to the teachings that I've studied, coming back to the land of masters, coming back to the Buddha in all the traditions. That's all I can tell you. So that your mind will be pervading the universe, it will know everything that exists, it'll be the primordial Buddha, it'll be called Samantabhadra, whatever word you like, it'll be called Vajradhara, it doesn't matter, all pervasive, all knowing, unmanifest, perfect consciousness. That's Buddha. That's real, actual Buddha. That out of immense compassion over eons and eons and eons of hard practice, you will then have the power, out of your incredible compassion, to manifest in millions of bodies, subtle light bodies and human bodies and dog bodies and hell bodies for the benefit of poor, suffering, mother sentient beings. That's the Dharmakaya, which is Samantabhadra, and the Rupakaya, which is the form bodies. So then, Buddha is a person. The term person, we're going to talk about emptiness in a minute. The word person refers to a Buddha, a hell being, a dog, and you. And so he's a Buddha. So if he gets his teachings from the Buddha, that means he's advanced. That's still a person.
Emptiness is form. Form is emptiness.
We're not discussing that yet, darling.
That's the same story.
Excuse me, don't leave me. Could I please request you to be quiet and calm down and go one step at a time?
Yes.
I'd like you to do that. Stop leaping ahead and telling us what you know all the time. You don't need to. So we'll get to that in a moment, and I'll explain it to you. What's your name, please? Sir?
Abraham.
Thank you, Abraham. Very kind for your wonderful question. Or your wonderful statements, actually. No question. But I gave you an answer whether you liked it or not, Abraham.
I want to say one more thing.
He wants to say the last word. I'll let you do it. What would you like to say? What would you like to say, Abraham?
My understanding,
Yep.
we say everyone has the Buddha nature.
Yes, Abraham. I agree
But
with
it's
you.
not everyone has the Buddha nature, everyone is the Buddha nature.
Okay, whatever you prefer. You think what you like, but why don't you open your mind while you're in this class, if you want to stay, and I'm not being rude now, I would love you to be, but open yourself to other views about Buddhism. How about that? Well, it must be very painful for you to hear this, because it doesn't agree with what you think.
It's not painful, you're just manifesting your reality. And that's how it is.
Good. Okay. Well, it's wonderful to have you here.
As your dance in this life.
And what, sweetheart?
As your show.
By who?
As your manifestation, your karmic, your incarnation.
Okay. Good. Wonderful. Thank you, Abraham.
You're welcome.
Any questions? Yes, darling.
You said there's school, high school, university.
Yes, and then postgraduate.
And I wanted to ask at which level you practice.
What, sweetheart?
At which level you practice
Who?
compassion to yourself. Because this thing
Buddhism doesn't use that phrase.
doesn't.
No, we use that because it sounds nice. But that's the first scope. That's renunciation. So let's go into that one. Let's start at the basics, okay? That's junior school. That's the first level of Buddha's teachings. And this is now getting us to the very, very entry-level junior school. And it's going to answer your question, but you're going to hear it's not sounding what you think. But it actually is that. But we don't hear it that way. So, okay, the very first level, like I said before, is the starting point. Is given that we're driven by delusions, given that we're driven by neuroses which cause suffering to ourselves and others, Buddha's instruction is control our body and speech, control our behaviour. So we have to now, this is the crucial point now. So normally I think in the world, I think we have, there's views of morality all over the world, as we know, either in religions or philosophies, whatever you like. And generally there's an agreement, behave nicely, like I said. But there's a crucial point here that I would suggest is unique to the Buddha. Maybe, you can tell me if it's not true, that certainly disagrees with the philosophical views underpinning all the creator religions' reasons for being moral. So I was a Catholic, okay? I always quote this. And I asked my Jesuit priest friend, the Jesuits are kind of the intellectuals of the Catholics, the Christians, right? The Catholics. So I asked him, by definition, what is a sin? It was very clear. And he said a sin is going against the will of God. In other words, doing what God said not to do. Now, I think that's the Jewish reason. That's the Muslim reason in general. Meaning the assumption here is that God's the boss. So equally also, God is the boss. God, that means, is the creator. God is the source. Even the Hindus have the view of karma. They still come to that philosophical view that there is some primordial energy being as the source that everything exists in, which is similar to the Jewish one I've heard. Everything is in the nature of God or something, So, but the general dualistic view of punishment and reward, of guilt and blame, which we are deeply familiar with, which we live according to, and which we never question, the Buddha's saying it doesn't come from your Jewish mummy or your Catholic mummy. It's implicit in those teachings, because this dualistic view of punishment, reward, that business, is our ego. That's ego grasping's job. Ego grasping, the root delusion for the Buddha, that is annihilated when we realize emptiness. That view, its nature is dualistic. And that view is the creator religions, the concept of a creator above, beyond, who doesn't have a cause, who's permanent, who makes everything else, who's the boss, who punishes and who rewards, is the same philosophical view of a soul, an inherent self. And the Greeks will call it like some essential substance. That philosophy is the philosophy made up by ego grasping, by maripa, by the root delusion. And so we create religions. We've created the creator. Buddha, now this is a crucial point. Buddha does not disagree with the concept of there being powerful, all-knowing, all-powerful, all-compassionate energy. Christians call it God. Jews call it God. The Muslims call it Allah. So that's he doesn't disagree, Buddha. This term superior being, Buddha uses it. Arya being. That's why poor Mr. Hitler went nuts. You know, he used that wrong. He misused